Testing, testing, testing. Hang on 1 second. JB here. Hope I was doing outstanding. April 11th, 2024. Just going to talk about similar names I've been talking about the last couple sessions. Talk about the markets. We have earnings. Q1 earnings kicking off tomorrow. Netflix reports next week should be interesting. And go from there. But first I'll talk about the markets. Take a look at the SPY. It is now green on the week. Pretty remarkable considering yesterday's CPI-induced sell-off. PPI data came out this morning under expectations, right? So a tad lower than expectations. The CPI was a tad higher than expectations yesterday. And the difference between PPI and CPI, and everybody looks at the CPI, right? Because that's the retailer. I mean, that's retail. That's everyday person buying goods, products that are going up in prices. The PPI is all the producers, the people who sell the stuff, the raw materials, manufacture stuff. But that's just domestic, right? So the difference between the CPI and the PPI is you could have imports, you could have international brands, whatever, get imported, and those prices could go up, but then the PPI could be lower because it's just the cost of the raw materials or what have you. But the thing is, to me, it's almost like a lagging indicator because if the producers see their raw materials and costs drop as part of their selling, then you would think in the future the CPI would drop because prices are going to come down. So I don't take that with a grain of salt. The market, I talk about that 518.50 spot on the SPY. Again, we're right there, 518.70. We close above that today. I think that bode well into tomorrow. Hopefully no shenanigans with the bank earnings. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Citi report tomorrow. And BlackRock should be, if they just inline results. You always have Jamie Dimon coming up with some comments. He's already said some things already, so I don't know if that's going to spook markets. And then maybe we work into the 520s tomorrow, which you would look yesterday in the afternoon. You would think there would be no possibility whatsoever. Not even yesterday afternoon, even this morning. The market was selling off into the data. If the PPI came in higher than expected, forget about it. We'd probably be in the low 500s. But who knows? I keep saying, well, not keep saying it, but I think if you look, rates have been high for long and the economy keeps going. So now if inflation starts to flatline or go lower and they start cutting rates, you have to think the economy is going to do even better. So I think that's some of the reason why the market is kind of defying the CPI yesterday and the hawkish Fed, all these analysts and banks coming out today, pushing back their estimates for the Fed cutting rates to September. The possibility of a June rate cut is down into the teens, 18% or so. It's probably even lower than that. And now you have some banks saying, oh, no, only one rate cut this year. So funny how the sentiment changes. But I think this PPI number might pull some of that back, give some hope that maybe we'll at least still get rate cuts this year. So that's the markets. Hopefully we hold 518.50. I keep saying those key areas, 512.50, sort of big spot this morning, and then 524.50 to the upside. I don't know if we'll get there this week, but those are the spots I'll be watching. So that's the markets. Constellation Brands, I'm not going to call it stars today. Ticker STZ, reported a great quarter, a beat. They also raised guidance, but I guess it's just not enough. They still have that overhang of their alcohol side of their business. The beer's doing great, Modelo, but the spirits hasn't been doing hot for a while. And to me, I thought even if it continued to show declines, which it did, I think it was 10% or so, but that's kind of like already baked into the stock. But stock went all the way up to 270, almost 275 in the pre-market, gave it back, almost went flat for a little bit into the late morning, bouncing back here. I don't know if I'm going to trade it too much. It tends not to be too volatile. And I was saying when I added those calls earlier in the week, the implied move on the stock, I think it was only 3.8%, and it's only had one outside sized move over the last 9 quarters above that. But to me, that means there's opportunity, right? So that's why I went and got those strikes. So I'll probably take that off the watch list, at least for now. I expected it to be higher here today, but comes with the territory. Unfortunately, I was looking for an opportunity for it to go higher before the earnings so I could lock some of the calls. Some are all in. Didn't get that opportunity, so held on to it into today. So it happens, right? So that's Constellation Brands. Take a look at DELL. Finally, it looks like DELL is going to hold green. It'll be the first time this week if it closes into green. I mean, it's only up barely 1% today, which is surprising because Nvidia's up nearly 3% today. You thought maybe it would be up even higher. Still love this one. I keep putting on a watch list and talking about it. I think it heads to the next higher highs and higher lows, bodes well for a move to 140. Probably not tomorrow, but next week I think is when it'll test 140. I talked about it yesterday as well. If I look to get the strikes, I'll probably get the May 155s, depending on what those look like in the next day or two. So still watching DELL for some upside. I added a position, and this is from Tim's, and I forget who else, if someone else had talked about this, but I think J-Rock has talked about this too. The Mediterranean CAVA, huge growth story. I like, not that I like to do comparisons, but supposedly this isn't possibly the next Chipotle. Unfortunately, it trades 10 times revenues just like Chipotle does, but the difference now, it's last quarter. Last year it grew 60% on a top line basis. I think they only have 300 locations. They opened 72 last year. So that's a huge move. I think they're guiding to open up 50 or so next year. Well, this year, 2024. But just a great story. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to go into the 3,000 range like Chipotle does. It's different share count. So if it did that, it would be an insane. It would be like a McDonald's. But I do think there's an opportunity for it to trade into the 70s. You take a look at where it was was it Monday? No, Tuesday. It dropped from 65 to 60, hit the 50-day moving average, which was 59.38. Now it was upgraded this morning. Yesterday, you had it was showing strength despite the market weakness, and then some follow through here today, up another 3.5%. I think at least the 70. I was looking at the April 75s, but I figured I'd give myself some time, so I got the May strikes. It looks like they'll report earnings at the end of May, so March, April, at the end of May. So those calls don't encompass the premiums for earnings, but still like that one for upside. That's why I added strikes, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity in the next couple days to lock some of those in to cover costs and ride the rest. Yeah, I think it was you, J-Rock, who first talked about CAVA back with the IPO. And now it just looks like a great opportunity, especially with that pull on Tuesday, right down to the 50-day moving average. So that's CAVA. I'm not really going to talk about the cannabis names, Aurora, Canopy Growth. CGC is down over 10%. Constellation Brands has a stake in CGC, and I have to find out the exact percentage that they own. There was a little blurb at the bottom of their earnings showing there was a loss associated with CGC, so I don't know if that's some of the reason why it's down over 10% here today, despite the fact that ACB is up in the green. But not going to add any more strikes just yet. Added those ACBs yesterday. It's going to be bumpy, continue to be bumpy, but I still think 17, 18 CGC, at least, over 10 on ACB, and then possibly 12 to 13 at least in the coming weeks. So those stories don't change. You start looking at the longer-term charts on ACB. It looks like consolidation. It holds that 6-handle ACB. I think it bodes well for more upside here in the coming days. So CGC, on the other hand, a little more disappointing because it's, let's see what we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Today will be its fourth red close. So hopefully that can find some footing here. Otherwise, it looks like ACB is going to eclipse it in regards to share price. But still love those names. Intuitive Surgical. It seems like every time it looks like it's going to break out, all of a sudden the sellers come in and pull it back down. It's up here at 392. I think last week was 393, 98, somewhere in there. It would have to break 395 here into the close. But I still have hope that it can get to the 400s. They do report earnings next week, so I was looking to possibly get some strikes, but the premiums are pretty expensive on a risk-reward basis. So if you're trying to get into Surgical calls for next week, let's see. I didn't even look just now. When it popped over 392. Yeah, 410s are 570 by 610. The 420s, the 340 by 370. I think it trades in the 400s, but the risk-reward there, $26 implied move. So if you start doing the math, $26 at 392, see 6.6% implied move on Intuitive Surgical. So I'll probably pass adding some strikes. So hopefully we get a big move, maybe an upgrade tomorrow. All we'll take is 6% for the calls. So that's Intuitive Surgical. What else? I'm not really going to talk too much about Riley here either. It's not a name. I'm a little nervous because there's a whole cohort of shorts that seem heck bent on just destroying the company, slandering the employees. Just not the type of thing that's just not my that's not my forte. I don't do that, right? So it seemed like the type of people who send just not fun. So I don't really want to talk too much about it, but it did break down Tuesday. I think it lost, pretty much gave back all the gains from Monday, and then yesterday, kind of like I wouldn't call it a hammer candle, but maybe a reversal here, and now it's, well, it was up at almost near 24 at noontime. It's still since gave some of it back, but still, I think this heads over 30 in the next week or two. Especially you have April option expiration next week. You start looking at the open interest on some of these strikes. It's insanity. You would think this is not an Apple or a Dell, but this is a $1.4 billion company. I think there's more options in notional value on the open interest. Right? Start looking at the puts for next week. The $2.50 puts that expire next week, 12,000. The $5 puts, 10,000. The $9 puts, 19,000. The $10 puts, 20,000. Right? The $15 puts, 23,000 contracts. Open interest expiring next week, 11,000 on the 1750s, 10,000 on the 20s. And you can go on, and the open interest on the call side is not the same. So are those people bought those? Are those sold to open? People collecting premium? I don't know. I don't know. So if it's sold to open, it could be a short who maybe they have millions of dollars in short, on the table, and then they're selling those naked, hoping they're going to expire and collect the premium. Who knows what they sold them at? But you have to think, if you got 250 puts, they couldn't have been that expensive, right? Even if you got them months ago. So anyway, I'm just trying to wrap my head around some of those things and do the math, and it's like you'd have to think the people who do shorts have ways to hedge themselves. I'm trying to figure out how that open interest might work its way to be skewed bullish heading into next week. Do they need to get this stock under those levels to protect themselves? Are they sold naked, so they're just going to roll off and expire with no issue? Technically, when you sell those, you need to be short the stock. So if you sell the open and it's above the price, are you on hook to add those shares, right? Do you have to cover those shares? So I have to do more research on that. And sometimes some of these option trades and stuff kind of boggle my mind, but some of the thing, I look at that open interest, I say, wow, something explosive could be happening next week. So that's Riley. Speaking of shorts, take a look at Global Life Shares. GL is the ticker. Fuzzy Panda. I love the names of these short folks who publish these short pieces. Came out with a short piece this morning, and it looked like there was someone who came with negative on the name a couple weeks ago as well, saying this stock looks shortable. GL was over $100. It was 110. It was $130 back in March. It's lost 56% of its value today. So it's pretty much lost nearly $6 billion in valuation. Pretty much the short piece, I didn't read the entire thing, is that the insurance company, it's shady. They do kickbacks to the leadership team. They fraudulently sign up customers to boost their numbers. Some shady stuff, but then you take a look at the stock, and obviously where there's smoke, there definitely is fire here, unless people are way off base. But on the flip side with Riley, maybe, if there's smoke, maybe there's fire. I don't know. But when you read the short piece on GL, there's facts, right? I mean, so you see some of the interviews, some of the due diligence that they've acquired to publish a short piece, and you say, wow. Similar to what you see when Hindenburg Research has posted some of the short pieces. I read that and I say, wow, this is great research and due diligence. Some of the other names, and that's why I look at Riley and say, if they're wrong with some of the stuff, it's going to squeeze, because a lot of the stuff they're talking about is not factual, right? It's all speculation, or at least that's what it looks like. And I try not to read too much on both sides, because I just think it's going to squeeze. All right, so that's my rant for those names. I'm trying to think. Altimmune was running today, some decent volume. Hopefully these GLP-1 names at some point are going to start taking off. You had some M&A yesterday. There was also another rumored name that was going to get acquired, Jax. I forget what the name of that company is. So hopefully that's the start of it's the snowball, right? It starts rolling down the hill, and all these big biotech names that are looking to do some acquisitions have done their research, and all it takes is a couple big acquisitions for these other mega cap bio names to start saying, wow, we better hurry up and start acquiring this company we've been eyeing before, number one, the valuations go up, premiums go up, or number two, someone else buys them. So hopefully that happens pretty shortly. I'm trying to think of some other names. Fiverr announced a buyback. It's down here at $20. Tough for me to get on that name. Similar to Baidu. As much as I look at Baidu and say, wow, it could be an opportunity for it at some point to break out based on what's going on in China and AI. It's been such a frustrating stock just chopping around here for the last, I don't know how long, let's see. It's been sucked since January. It's been 98 to about 110 on Baidu. But yeah, tough one on Fiverr. I guess last but not least, I'll talk about SE. SE Limited. Lucky it got into the 58s yesterday, so I could lock some of the calls in for some profits and ride freebies. But it's struggling today. I don't know if it's because Asia stocks sold off a little bit yesterday. But it's down here at 55 and change. It squeezed out a gain yesterday, and I think it made it 5 straight sessions to the upside. So maybe a little consolidation today, and then we can look into the 60s, not tomorrow, but maybe next week. And I think that's it, folks. Sitting here at 518.50 on the SPY as I get off here. If that holds, I think 520 tomorrow, pending any crazy surprises from the banks. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. Thanks for listening. Rock and roll.